Okay, hi. Well, welcome everyone to the MTOPP FLAC Save Associate and Respect Brooklyn's forum. And we have an exciting lineup today. We are missing one candidate. Unfortunately, she was unable to make it, and that is Vivian Morgan. But we have the other two candidates. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Alicia Boyd. I represent the Movement to Protect the People, Flower Lovers Against Corruption, and Save Associate. And we are a grassroots organization that's been in effect since 2014. And basically, we've been very instrumental in protecting the community from out-of-scale development, district-wide rezoning, and now we are protecting our green spaces, the Book and Botanic Gardens, and our playground. So I do apologize. We are running a little late, so please bear with us. For people who are attending, please think about staying all the way to the end because we're going to be doing a voting poll, which is going to be really exciting to find out who's the winner of this particular event. So that should be really nice. And so we want to make sure that you stay with us to that end so you can participate in that poll. So to no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start introducing the candidates. I'm just going to start from where I see them. Kenya.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenny Handy Hilliard, and I want to be your city councilwoman. Many have asked, who is this Kenya? Well, I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 2 young kids, and I love my community tremendously. I grew up here, I was raised here, and I want to deliver for this community in the ways in which you need it. I'm a public servant. I've served this community for 14 years of my career. I have the legislative, budgetary, investigative, and community organizing skills to make sure that I bring home the bacon and I make sure that we stop this development in the ways in which it's happening right now. I've worked on Capitol Hill, where I led Congressional Black Caucus efforts around comprehensive immigration reform. I've partnered with local elected officials and the Department of Justice to end stop, question, and frisk. And as the Brooklyn director for the New York City Comptroller's Office, I organize stakeholders to fight for true affordable housing, and that means against MIHZQA. I fought against tenant harassment, housing schemes like deed theft and mortgage fraud as the Brooklyn director of the New York State Attorney General's Office. And I've helped hold New York City agencies and contractors accountable for waste, fraud, and abuse at the New York City Department of Investigation. I am the person elected officials, your community stakeholders, and your advocates call to get something done in government. And so I strongly believe that government should be of service to people in partnership with people. It should be transparent, accessible, responsive to help people make the best decisions for their lives and their families. I built a career around problem solving, and in this urgent time, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work on affordable housing, on zoning restructuring, and community development on day one.
Okay, thank you. Lorraine, are we counting 2 minutes?
Yeah, but
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Are we counting 2 minutes?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, well, we're gonna ask, I do apologize, but we're gonna ask you to stay with the 2 minutes.
Right.
We're gonna do Rita Joseph, please. Rita?
Yeah, I was just unmuting myself. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rita Joseph. I'm a mom of 4, an educator, community activist, and a proud union member. I've been a fighter and activist all my life. And when I was 19 years old, I organized my first rally. And I co-founded an organization called Haitian Enforcement Against Racism in order to protest the FDA discriminatory blood rule that prevented Haitians from donating blood. Because of that march, over 150,000 people crossed the Brooklyn Bridge. And because of that march, FDA rescinded the rule. And since organizing the rally, which had more than over 150,000 people, I've never looked back on my community. I've organized protests against cuts for students' MetroCards, police brutality, and all the needs that my community need, whether it's food, clothing, food drive, and educational. While District 40 has a lot of issues, three of them are near and dear to me. Education is near to my heart. I think every child deserves a first-class education, regardless of their zip code, their race, or their parents' income. Since my students can't vote, if I'm elected to City Hall, I will be their voice. Another thing that my future constituents complain about is affordable housing. And my neighbors need to know that affordable housing will be provided for them. And last but not least, I'm a mom of 4 boys, 4 Black sons. So social justice is near and dear to my heart. Every night I go to sleep and pray that my boys would never be another Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, or George Floyd. I want police to be held accountable for its citizens, reinvest money from the police department into the communities, into a hospital mental health services. We need accountability. Lastly, we need to end school to prison pipeline and remove police from schools.
Thank you, Rita. So now we're going to go to Blake Morris.
Hi, I'm Blake Morris. Some of you may know me, some of you may not know me. My family's been living in Brooklyn since the 1870s. I've been living in Flatbush, in New York City since 1984. And we lived in the same house in Ditmas Park in Flatbush since 2000. And when we moved into Ditmas Park, it was affordable. Flatbush was a very different place back then. So 20 years has been a lot of changes. And as a city council member, I would like to make Flatbush a lot more affordable, make it sustainable, make it a place that people can raise their families and have a life that they love to live. We raised my daughter here. She went to PS 139. She went to public middle school and then went to Brooklyn Tech. She's now attending a public university. These are all things that are possible if we have affordable housing, if we have quality healthcare, quality education. What I would like to do is be your council member that I can provide those services for you. I want you to focus on your families, your loves, your work, your passions, and work with and team with me so that we can get together so that a lot of the problems that we have now in the 40th district can be solved, right? So we don't have a food insecurity problem. We don't have a housing insecurity problem. We don't have a quality education problem. These are things that we can work together on. And you can come to my office. This pandemic will be over one day, hopefully very shortly. And we're gonna have weekly meetings and we'll have targeted meetings based on topic. We'll have digital meetings. We'll still have some Zoom calls. We'll have a way to interact on the internet so you can get information that's easily accessible to you so that you have choices in your life. There's no reason that we can't make this district the best possible place to live in New York City. It once was the best possible place to live in New York City. That's why we moved here, and we can make it again. And I want to thank you for your time, and I think we're going to have an excellent debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to Edwin Raymond.
How are you? I'd like to start by thanking everyone who's in attendance. My name is Edwin Raymond. I'm a son of Brooklyn. My parents migrated here in the 70s and 80s. For the American dream. I was born here and still live, in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. And I had very humble beginnings. Unfortunately, I lost my mom as a toddler. My father wasn't working. He wasn't educated, didn't speak English. So, my brother and I, we really struggled. But my father was able to make sure he raised 2 great young men. This did not stop the NYPD from abusing us. So at the age of 22, I decided to join the police department, specifically to analyze its ways and see what can be done to change it. I've since become a whistleblower. Today, I'm a police lieutenant. I blew the whistle on the quota system that the department likes to deny exists. It's a very real way in how they operate, and amongst other discriminatory things, like spying on Muslims and all sorts of things that the department does wrong. After becoming a whistleblower, over 400 people reached out and said, young man, you need to run for office. Your level of integrity and courage is what we've been missing. And please run for something. And I would always, just respectfully say thank you. But 2 years ago, I decided, this is a natural calling. This is what the people have been asking for. And it's not just about criminal justice reform. Obviously that's a signature issue of mine. But at this point, it's about transcending that level of integrity and courage into other areas that affect our people, our district, and people throughout the city. So whether it's housing, education, mental health, homelessness, just an array, spectrum of issues that affect the people. This is what I'm focused on doing. I like to make informed decisions, collective decisions, and I'm grateful to be on this program.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify something. All of the candidates are classified as co-hosts because then they have the ability to mute and unmute, just for clarification. Okay, great. Jose?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Pierre. You can call me Josh, running to be the next council member in the 40th district. Came here when I was 5 years old, brought here my parents. My dad worked 3 jobs to get us here. My mom, just as hardworking, was a home health aide. And together, those two, living in a rent-stabilized apartment, were able to scrape together enough money to purchase a home in Flatbush where they raised their 4 boys, me and my 3 brothers. My entire life, I went to underfunded schools with underpaid teachers. IS-61 on the corner of Empire and New York Avenue. I attended that school. After I left IS-61, I fell behind in high school. Luckily for me, there were teachers who decided to invest in me. I made it through high school, made it to college, got a finance degree, went to a big firm, was not passionate about what I was doing, but I eventually got a position as senior financial analyst at the New York City Comptroller's Office, where my job was investing New York City pensioners' money into real affordable housing from the Bronx all the way to East New York. During that time, we financed and preserved over 3,000 units of real affordable housing. Unfortunately, none of those units are here in the Flatbush or in the 40th. And that's what's missing. We need leadership that understands the issues, but also knows how to take the necessary actions to make it happen for us. Not only have I been a financial analyst, I had a completely different job later on where I was the Brooklyn Borough Director for the New York City Comptroller's Office, dealing with constituency services, connecting policy and people, taking the policies that were brought forth, taking them to the people, hearing their feedback, and enriching them with what your thoughts were. I've been dedicated to this type of work. For me, it's not politics, it's really a matter of passion. That's why it's not just my 9 to 5, it's my weekender, and it's something that I just love doing. I look forward to hearing what questions you guys have, in particular around rezoning, and how we cut through some of the nonsense and get to what we really want, things that are for and by the community. Thank you.
Okay, well, we want to thank all of you for your introduction. Now we're going to sit there and play a game. It's called Jeopardy. And so the way that this is going to work is that I'm going to ask one person a question. And if the person then explains the concept, and then everyone else gets another question based upon that concept. Once we start doing it, you'll understand it a little bit better. But we are taking points. So if you don't answer a question right, you don't get a point. And if you do, you get a point. Well, we're trying to make this a little fun because some of the questions might be challenging. So we're going to start with Kenya. And here's the question. A new form of voting has been instituted into the primary elections, which has drawn some controversy regarding communities of color. It's called ranked choice voting. What is ranked choice voting? And you have a minute to answer.
Ranked choice voting is a new process where you are allowed to rank up 5 candidates. And through the process, you will, if nobody gets 50+1 on the first round, the last person to get the least amount of votes will drop off. And all of those second choice voters will then be redistributed amongst the candidates to see if that person, whoever receives 50+1. If that doesn't happen, then you go to the last person on the second round drops off, and all those third choice people will be redistributed. And if nobody gets 50+1 on that round, then you will go down to the next one. And so you will keep going until someone gets 50+1% of the vote.
Thank you. So now for the rest of the candidates, I'm going to ask you, what are the advantages or disadvantages of ranked choice voting? Rita Joseph, you have a minute.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. The advantages is for voters, it's an opportunity to rank your candidates from 1 to 5. It's also an opportunity to partner up. There's no negative campaigning. build a coalition. Maybe the other voter or the candidate that you decide to partner up with, their district may not know you, that part of the district may not know you, they get to know you, and they see the coalition, so they won't be negatively campaigning against each other. And it also helped women too, and people of color to vote more and get involved. And I think it's a great way to for democracy. So yes.
Thank you. Blake Morris?
The same question?
Yes, the same question.
Oh, so the benefits are that what happens is if there's a plurality of, under the old system of first past the post, if there is a plurality of voters, a block of voters, they actually can throw the election pretty easily, so that even though 60 or 70% of the voters are split or have a particular determination, a block of 25 to 30% of the voters can actually control the outcome of the election. Ranked choice voting actually minimizes the power of voting blocks, and because it disperses the power of the vote among the entire group of voters, since you're going to rank them 1 through 5.
Thank you. And the reason why we are doing this is because we will have an opportunity to do some ranked choice voting at the end of this session. So I want people to be familiar with it. Edwin?
Yeah, so I mean, as has already been said, the benefit of ranked choice voting is that it's a true democracy, reflects more of the voices of the people towards the candidate that becomes victorious. The real only disadvantage is that, you know, especially elderly voters, people who have been voting for decades, it's just such a new system. The disadvantage is the lack of education on the system. As I'm out there campaigning and I'm speaking to folks, no matter how many times I try to explain it, they're like cartoon graphics to try to explain it. Some people, because they're just so unaccustomed to it, they don't really like it. But I try to explain to them it's a true democracy. So I think it's great. The only thing that I would say is a disadvantage is the lack of education behind it.
Okay, and Josie.
So as my fellow candidates have said, there are a number of advantages that they've already mentioned. So I'm going to talk about some of the disadvantages, including the fact that whenever you have a change within a system that is brought on by the government, there should be a level of funding towards educating people. We spent close to $40 million to get the census correct. And at the time that I spoke at the committee about ranked choice voting in favor of it, we had only spent $1 million. So it's a fact that we have not put enough resources to ensure that people are properly educated about the system. But at the same time, it opens up the opportunity for those of us who are more civically engaged to go into the community, organize these sessions so that we take the initiative to educate the population about the new system.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get to our next question. I think everyone got good points with that one. We're going to go, this is for Rita Joseph. According to the Haitian Times, dated February 28, 2021, the current councilperson, Matthew Eugene, whose seat you are running for, gave discretionary funds of $950,000 to organization outside of his district compared to $298,000 inside. For example, Matthew gave $32,000 to the Jewish Community Council and $53,000 to the Borough Park Jewish Community Council, all outside his district, where he gave the Haitian American Community Coalition $5,000, $6,000, and $8,000 respectively. Can you explain to the public what are discretionary funds? Rita?
Okay.
Rita, we can't hear you. Okay,
No,
there
you
you go.
weren't allowing me to unmute.
Oh, okay, we apologize.
Yes.
So we're going to start over. Please start over for her.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, great.
No.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, the council member decided to take the money outside the district. Discretionary funds are money set aside that council members have access to distribute to non-for-profit organizations in their respective districts. So therefore, that's what the money is there for. I I would love to personally have seen that money spent in our district, providing services to organizations that can really use it. And as you can see, it went outside. Though he claimed that some of the services were outsourced, but they were service rendered to the constituents living in the district. So myself first, I'm an educator. I would have educated non-for-profit organizations how to get that money, what it's for, when it's available, how to apply for it, conduct a workshop in my office to make sure that people know, have access to it and how to use it, and make sure that it stay within the district. I saw your card.
Okay, so now for the rest of the candidates, this is the question. What do you plan on doing with the discretionary funds? If you became the city council person, what would you do with your discretionary funds? We're going to start with Blake Morris.
So, hi. So what I would do is, so there's different types of budget money. There's capital money for capital improvements, which are building buildings and structures. There's operations money that the city approves to pay for police and fire and sanitation. And then we have this discretionary money. And this is discretionary money. It's up to the city council member to pick the best not-for-profits or the most suitable not-for-profits in the district that he thinks, or that he or she thinks are going to do the most good. And actually, I think the most valuable use of not-for-profit, of city funding of not-for-profit money would be for educational purposes, to actually partner. There's all these amazing not-for-profits that partner with local schools, mainly elementary and middle schools, to provide a quality education, character building, rounding out their educational experience, like Urban Dove. And also there's New York City Outward Bound that provides all kinds of leadership training. And that's what I would do.
Thank you. Edwin Raymond?
I love how you say my last name, by the way.
Are you not Haitian?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure that I have the right accent.
Yeah, you say it perfectly.
Well, thank you.
First, I want to start by making sure people understand, discretionary funds. It's one of the most powerful tools that a council member has. Other levels of legislators, be it Congress or state, they don't have that. So, on top of funding organizations, you can also fund initiatives within the district. So things from, hunger to fixing streets, obviously working with different organizations that are providing good resources and services to the people. Those are the things that I would focus on, be it educational, dealing with health. I'm out there working with different organizations that help with food insecurities. It's limitless what can be done with discretionary funds. So it's crucial that any member, whoever it is that's in charge of that, makes decisions that reflects the best needs of the community.
Okay, thank you. Joseph Pierre?
So the first thing I would do with the discretionary funding is ensure that we have a robust participatory budgeting program here in the 40th. I was part of the original pilot program for participatory budgeting, and I saw how it empowered people and brought out new ideas, because at the end of the day, you as an elected have a sense of what is the need in the community, but there's nothing better than community members coming together to say, this is what we can do and this is what we envision. And a lot of good policy comes from meeting with people and actually hearing from them. But aside from that, discretionary funding is very powerful, and it could be used for good and it could be used for bad. It shouldn't be used over nonprofits and people in the community that are active as like, if you don't do what I asked you to do, you don't get any funding. I believe the best thing we could do if we want to see growth in our community is invest in teaching those organizations how to get off discretionary funding, give them the funding to get bigger grants.
Thank you. And Kenya?
Yeah, I agree with my brother, Jasu. Participatory budgeting. This ain't my money. And so I can't dictate where it should be. I think it should be a community process, and we decide collectively where it should be. There are so many different programs, there are so many different nonprofits who need this money. And I agree that we should help to kind of restructure the way in which nonprofits, have to basically beg to get money. But I do think that we just need to have the community discussion, expand participatory budgeting, expand education around participatory budgeting and make sure that we're investing in growth investments and not political investments, which has been kind of the large scale trajectory for it.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to go to the next question. Blake Morris. The city of New York has devised a plan called matching funds during elections. Can you explain to the audience what are matching funds?
Sure. Matching funds are if a candidate, I don't know the requirements for the other types of offices, but for the city council, if a candidate can get 75 registered voters from their district, you give them $10 or more, and they need to raise either $7,200 or $7,500. They will qualify for matching funds, and then when you qualify for matching funds, the city will give you $8 for every dollar that you raise. Most of the donations to city council candidates go through the city portal, and there's a filing through a period of time. There's a filing, and then the city will actually transfer money into your campaign bank account.
Okay, thank you. Are there any limits?
Yes, the limits of giving are $175. Oh, there's a minimum of $10 for matchable giving and a maximum of $175, and individuals can donate up to $1,000 total.
And is there a maximum of how much money you can raise with?
There is no max. It's a little complicated. There is no maximum of how much you can raise. There is a maximum of how much you can spend, and they have a financial rule that says if you spend over, I think $165,000 or $170,000, I forgot the exact amount, that the first dollar spent were actually the public's money, and they'll claw back the money if you overspend over the expense limit.
Okay, thank you. So for all the rest of the candidates, did you choose matching funds, and explain why you did or did not? Edward Raymond?
Yes, I chose the matching funds option because I think it's a great program. I mean, there's some kinks in it, but it's a great program overall. And it allows for true grassroots movements. Not everyone has access to big funders or for different reasons. One of the things that stops some great people from running and running successful campaigns is the lack of being able to raise funds successfully. And matching funds, it helps us achieve the true democracy by giving the people a good array of candidates, because obviously the city is matching up the money. It was 6 times at once, now it's up to 8 times. So I participated in matching funds, and I was able to receive the full amount.
Who's next? Jose Pierre?
Yes, I did opt into the matching fund systems for a number of reasons. One, I'm not a naturally rich person, come from a working class background. 2, the bulk of the people that have supported me and gotten me to this point are not people that can necessarily write $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 checks. These are mainly people who can write $10, $50, $100, some of them $250 checks. So that made perfect sense for me. I also believe that it makes for a more democratic process. It magnifies the power of that senior that says, hey, I'm on assisted living, but I believe in you and I'm willing to give you $10, and that $10 becomes $80. It gives them much more voice, and it lessens the level of buying power that wealthy people would normally have in city government. So you see that disparity that happens in Albany does not necessarily happen at the city council, and it's made for more on the ground, people-powered situations and decisions.
Thank you. Kenya?
Yes, I opted in to program A, and I did so because, like many of my colleagues said, it expands the way in which our communities can have a say. We always talk about, leveraging your vote, but it's also using the money to leverage your voices as well. And so it allows the people to be a special interest, which has not been the situation in other forms of politics. And so it creates a broader coalition of community, and it allows for, you know, us to cap the amount of money that we spend so that we're all the candidates are on equal footing with each other.
Thank you. And Rita.
Hi, yes, I also did participate in the matching funds. I don't have access to rich funders, so which allowed the campaign to be a people-powered campaign by my friends, families, and neighbors. And I'm proud that I'm not taking any money from police, fossil fuel companies, lobbyists, and real estate developers. So it allowed me to have a people-powered campaign.
Okay, thank you. And that's it. We're going to go to Josiah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Edward Romo. And all of you were at the rally against the closing of the Associates supermarket on Nostrand Avenue and Empire Boulevard. And I did see all of you there. Not only would this closure be harmful to the community, causing a food desert right in the middle of a global pandemic, but what it showed is how vulnerable small businesses are in New York City. However, there has been a bill sitting for years in City Council called the Small Business Job Survival Act. Can you please tell the audience what the Small Business Job Survival Act is?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the rally. It was unfortunate. And, you know, I don't know if, I'm sure you heard that 1620 could tell you the land use committee voted to, unfortunately, to go with the development, and which is what we're trying to stop there. It's a 10-year lease minimum with the act that basically allows the businesses I don't have it memorized. I am familiar with the act. I did read it in all of my notes and familiarizing myself, but I know it's a 10-year minimum that businesses are allowed to stay, if I'm not mistaken. I have to review my notes for the act specifically.
Well, not exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's not exactly the act. We're going to give someone else an opportunity. Now, this is the time where you got to use your hand function. Does anybody know what the Small Business Job Survival Act is? Please use your hand function now. Anybody want to take that? No hands?
I'm gonna take a stab at it.
Rita, she's the first one. You got to be quick in the draw. Rita?
I know that it would establish, I want to make sure if I'm right, it would establish condition and requirements for commercial lease and renewal negotiations, including a requirement for lease and terms and arbitration. I mean, I don't know if I'm too right on it, but that's the gist on it. That's the gist.
Okay, great. So Rita gets an extra point for that. And so we're asking everyone else, what is your position on the bill? Would you change any of, I'm sorry, what steps would you take, if any, to get this bill passed once and for all if you became the city council person? So the next person we're going to ask is José Pierre, and he has his hand up.
So the first step is always educating the community on what it is. Like we ourselves need to be educated on what the bills are. The community needs to be educated, because very often there are well-intentioned policies that are put forth, but if you can't get community backing, it becomes much harder. So that's number one. Then there's coalition building across members of the city council, working with those other members, getting it to the right committee so that it's pushed along. And then finally, voting on that legislation. So that's a piece of legislation I would support. I would look deeper into it to ensure that there are no clauses that might end up necessarily, well-intentioned and hurting our small businesses. But in general, when you look at the rate at which rents have gone up, stores have closed down, moving out our small businesses, and at the same time staying vacant, you can see there's a discrepancy between what they're saying is good for us and what we know is good for us and has disappeared.
Thank you. Kenya? Oh, yeah, Kenya.
Yeah, so I would just add that, those are the proper and appropriate steps. I would also add that you want to make sure that the agency can actually administer the policy in the appropriate way, because a lot of times we have progressive legislation that is stuck at the agency, and it's not always paid for. So we need to make sure that if there's any funding, that there's a budget that is going to allow it to, go through the agency down and to those who administer it, so that it reaches the ground. So that's another extra step that we should consider when we're looking at this bill.
Rita Joseph?
Just taking some notes. I know I would sponsor it, but you said it's been sitting there for 30 years. Maybe we need to sit coalition building, as my fellow candidate said, and we probably need to revise the bill to meet the current time. You said it's been sitting there for 30 years. So therefore, again, we have to build coalition, reach across the aisles with one another as we are doing now, and finding people that would sponsor this bill and make sure we revise it to meet the times that we're living in right now.
Thank you. Blake Morris?
Yes, I would support the bill. I read the bill a couple of times. Last time was about a month ago. It's a pretty good bill. It's actually not what people think it is. There was a whole controversy for a long time about commercial rent control, and this bill is not commercial rent control. This is about protecting small businesses. So it's actually a very good idea. And it actually gives stability and gives a duration of time so that a small business has an ability to survive. It's a 10-year period. There are cost escalators. And if the landlord and tenant can't come to an agreement, they can go to binding arbitration.
Thank you. Okay, so Joseph Pierre, you are next for the question. Corey Johnson, the Speaker of the City Council, has proposed a very controversial bill called Comprehensive Rezoning Plan, or Planning Together for New York City. What is your understanding of the Corey Johnson Bill 2186?
Well, so from what I remember from that bill, the goal based on how it was presented was to get more affordable housing in and make it part of the rezoning process, et cetera. Now, my concern with that type of bill is it becomes a bulk blanket. It becomes a bulk blanket rule for various communities, right? And when you look at districts like ours, right? Nostrand Avenue is not Cortelli Road. Maple Street is not Church Avenue. And so any type of bulk rezoning in that fashion could have maybe positive impacts on one corner, but not necessarily good impacts on another part of the district. So it's not something that I've fully supported, but I think there are aspects of making sure that we can integrate more affordable housing. That's an ideal goal for me, because it's what I stand for.
That is not exactly the correct answer. Does anybody else want to try? Any hands up? I know this was a very difficult question. I do have to say that. Does anybody want to try? Okay, then I will give it to you. It's a comprehensive plan that's being proposed.
Did Blake have his hand up?
Yes, I had. I finally found the feature.
Oh, Blake, I didn't see you. I'm sorry. So
That's
go
okay.
ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
So Corey Johnson's bill is basically it's top-down citywide land use planning, and we actually need bottom-up land use planning. So I'm definitely would be against this bill. We want to have community-based zoning. So zoning is just a tool in the toolbox for land use. So basically, we want the people who are actually living in the neighborhoods, they should have the voice, and that's where we should start this process. And this is actually just the opposite of that.
Okay, and so he's basically answering the next set of questions that I'm going to ask the rest of you guys, and that is, what is your position on this bill? Would you change anything in it? And if so, what? So Rita, I know you had your hand up.
Oh, thank you. I know it's a master plan for affordable housing, but where does it fit? I find rezoning, and I'm sure some of my colleagues would agree that a lot of the rezoning sometimes is very segregated. They choose and pick the neighborhoods they want to build these affordable housing, and everybody's like, oh, not in my backyard, not in my backyard. Why don't you put it over there? I would love to tweak that bill and make sure it's spread out evenly. Affordable housing is supposed to be spread out evenly, not where I want it.
Okay, Josie?
So this city is so vast that the problems that we have different answers based on where we live, right? When you look at Soho, yeah, they need to take on more affordable housing because it's a wealthier neighborhood where they'll say, oh, we don't really need that there. We don't need the upzoning. But when it comes to Flatbush or Crown Heights, we have to bear the burden of building more, building more, building more. First of all, the zoning process should always start at the base level because it's about the people who live there. And the zoning allows you to build more, right? Which is a public good that belongs to us that we're giving to the developer. What are we getting in exchange for it? So yes, I think that that type of law needs to be tweaked. And I think it certainly needs to start from the bottom up. And you have to have community participation. And in order for you to have community participation, you have to actually educate people. If your community board has no land use or zoning committee, how are you then able to educate people and have a process that actually benefits them?
Thank you. Edwin Vermont?
I don't think it goes far enough. It doesn't, you know, when it comes to empowering the community and making sure the community is heard, as of right, and even the ULURP process is not reimagined in the way that in what's presented in the bill. So it doesn't go far enough.
Okay. Did I miss somebody? Kenya.
Kenya has her hand up.
Kenya. Okay.
Yeah, I really think that when you're talking about rezoning, what's the problem, the general problem of how our city approaches it is that we do city planning and not community planning. It should be community based for community benefit as the bottom line, not the developer's bottom line. And even Corey Johnson's bill still defers to the developer and their financial gain and not the overall benefit. Also, 10 years is way too long, right? Like why is this a 10-year time span? It should be tomorrow. And so I think I agree with my colleagues that we need to, reimagine our zoning, but I think it's also, we have to understand that we're going to catch this bill when we come into office. So we need to either make sure we can either, reform or repeal or reform it, or that we need to, make some real changes to the underlying context.
Thank you. Okay, so we've finished the Jeopardy portion of our, but I know a couple of you are a little behind, but now you have an opportunity to catch up because we have some bonus points. So please make sure that you're paying attention to that button, right? Make sure that you're paying attention because the first person who raises their hand will be the first person that I'm going to call on to get some extra points. So, and it's a little tricky, but maybe you can get it. As you know, a big-time real estate developer and several unions are proposing to build the largest residential development project in between two public green spaces, the Jackie Robinson Playground and the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. Just last week, the developers and the union came to the community and suggested a 17-story version to be considered instead of the 39 and 35-story, which is contained in the rezoning application. What do you think about this option? Can it work? Okay, Josie, you're the first one up.
If I'm not mistaken, you're referring to the Spice Factory.
Yes.
Yes. So on Franklin Avenue, there are a number of issues with that project. One, that footprint and that scale will drastically change the community. Lowering that height still does not take away the fact that you're not building enough affordable housing. You're casting a shadow over the botanical gardens, and it's still not reflective of what the community members have approached and said, this is what they want. So I think you still need a lower height, and you can achieve higher levels of affordability if you're willing to take more government subsidies and have units that are appropriate for the people in the area. Now, I don't know that the infrastructure there can take a lot more people, but I know it's closer to the train station than more other development sites. So yes, so no, I am not supportive of what I've heard so far.
Anybody else? We're gonna just ask everyone to comment on that. So Rita, would you like to go?
Sure. I don't personally, when I read the project, the building is not appropriate for the neighborhood at all, and it definitely will cast a massive shadow over the community garden. And I'm not in favor of it at all. Not even for the height in terms of the 17. I don't think it should be built there at all.
Okay. Blake?
So we're talking about 960 Franklin Avenue, where the Spice Factory is located, which is a historic factory building. And it's actually still being used as a spice factory. I would like to be able to preserve that building as part of any project. So the developer is playing bait and switch. He's playing actually bait and switch on two or three different levels, because we have a 41-story building, we have a 30+ building, we have a 17-story building, and his as of right zoning is only actually 6 floors. So basically, the developer is not playing straight with the community. There's the city council member for that district is basically not being supportive of the community and helping out to actually clear the air, to actually clarify what's happening. It's actually a direct threat to the Botanic Garden. So I'd be definitely opposed to the project, and I'm definitely opposed to the entire Euler process, because the developer does not respect the community. And no matter what this developer does, at this point, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think there's any confidence that he has the community's interest at heart.
Thank you. Edwin Raymond?
So, the rezoning that the developers are asking for, it's still like, as was already said, we still end up with a mega project, and it just doesn't fit. Better assessment is needed. And shout out to you for suspending that ULURP, so yeah, it's no good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kenya?
Yeah, so one of my fundamental issues with where we are with mandatory inclusionary housing and zoning for quality and affordability is that there's a level of disrespect in the process. There is no way that you're going to come into my community and not tell me that you're putting in an application to build something. You need to come to the council member, and the council member needs to bring you to the community first to talk about what are your plans. Get community input first, and then as we partner on what this development is look like, that's when the application is. Too many times these applications are coming in, and it's community groups that are catching this and saying, "Oh hell no," right? So we really need to make sure that one, there's a level of respect in any new ULURP or any new MIA ZQA. Another issue that I have is that we don't build for families who we know if they're going to be density. At least we know that there's going to be investment in the community. We build for transient people who leave the district because they're trying to get the market rate apartments. So I think we really need to think about overall how we are investing in the district's housing.
Thank you, Kenya. And you are a little bit ahead of me as far as the next question. So your answer is moving right into the next question. Did I get everybody? Just want to make sure. Good. Okay. So this is the next question. Please make sure you raise your hand. Remember, the first person who raises their hand gets the point. The Mandatory Inclusionary Housing Program, also known as MIH, provides an opportunity for developers to break existing building height limits in communities to build affordable housing. However, a lot of the projects, like the Cortilla Road rezoning, that happens in communities of color, which need non-rent burden housing, however, does not have the community support. What is your position on this law? And what would you do, if anything, about it? Okay, Jose is really fast. Yeah, he's really fast, guys.
MIH has already built into it gentrification and displacement. if you're saying that you're going to come into a community and build 100 units and maybe 10 to 20 of them might be affordable, and might be affordable means maybe if you make at least $75,000 to $120,000, you're literally saying that we are zoning specifically for displacing the current middle and working class population in there. So I'm completely against MIH. I think that was definitely a switch and bait, where we wanted affordable housing and we were desperately asking an administration for affordable housing, and they give us this. What we could have instead is a reversal. What we should have is a situation where we get the maximum amount of affordable housing. We should be getting 80% affordable housing or 100% affordable housing. So no, I don't support it. I'm also very concerned about the contextual size of developments. The neighborhoods also have a look and a feel to them that end up changing as we implement MIH to give landlords and profit mongers what they want.
Okay, do I see any more hands? Kenya, but you got to use the function. Go ahead, Kenya.
Okay. So I wholeheartedly agree. As I said earlier, we had been fighting against MIH when it was coming to the borough, the Brooklyn Borough president, to say that this is the AMI in it is unbelievable. And it's because the mayor did not want to, he wanted to get his affordable housing, but he didn't want to pay for it. He wanted to use the developer's bottom line in order to get his affordable housing numbers, but he was selling out the community as he did it. And so it really is for us. If we're selling out our sunlight and our skyline, then the community needs greater benefit. That means we need investment in green spaces, environmentally sound housing, parks. You need to give, I need my schools to be fully funded, and I need my streets to be paved, my infrastructure done. I want to make sure that if you were to build in this community and expand it, that you're going to create the circumstance that we can then get that new density.
Thank you. Edwin Wemo?
Yeah, I mean, my peers have already said it, but it's just not inclusive enough. You know, it doesn't, what on the surface, what it's supposed to accomplish is not what's happening. And overall, we do have to work with federal partners to really recalculate the AMI, because whenever something goes up and you see, that 20% affordable, the question is always affordable for who? You know, as Josh said, the amount that people have to make in order to qualify for affordable is that it's astronomical when you compare it to what people are actually making in the area. And we have to stop playing games with people's lives.
Rita Joseph?
And as you mentioned earlier too, it always has to do with the communities of colors. However, in wealthier neighborhoods, they may be able to develop affordable housing painlessly, but it doesn't happen. It always happened in our neighborhoods, and they just wants us to just take it. And as all of my colleagues have said, it's always about the money. And when we look at the AMI of these buildings, none of us can afford them, because most of the people that live in these neighborhoods are rent burdened. 30 to 40% of their income goes solely to rent. So I definitely cannot support MIH.
Lisa, if I could just interject, that the mayor can lower the percentage of AMI, so he can do his own lowering. That we don't have to rely on the federal.
Just do it.
And we could also make neighborhood AMIs as well that fits the neighborhood. That, for example, my neighborhood, make it affordable for the people living in my neighborhood. So we can do community AMIs as well.
I do have to agree that the city council has that power. Whether the city council would actually do that is different. Okay, Blake, I think you're the last person.
Let's see. Yes. So MIH is it's a racket. It doesn't work. It's a horrible idea. It's a fascist theory, right? So basically, we have the city and the state, they are required to provide public housing, to provide affordable housing. Affordable housing means a lot of different things to different people. People need it. And so what we've done is outsourced this obligation that we have to others, right? The obligation the public has to others to supply them a quality way of life. We've outsourced this to faceless developers and capitalists, and we're giving them subsidies, all kinds of tax subsidies and tax credits, and then we're getting back a crumb through the MIH process. So it's a horrible law. People are definitely against it. You're not getting what you think you're getting, and it's not benefiting anybody.
Okay, thank you. So now we have our last and final question for our Jeopardy for a bonus. Now you better watch Jose, because he's really fast on the gun there, guys. You know, I think he's leading here. So go ahead. So here we go with the last question. One of the hottest issues on the table is real estate developers' push to increase the heights of buildings in our city under the land use review process, also known as ULURP. What does city council deference mean in regards to the ULURP? Okay, so I get Edwin Vemo. Kenya, I never even saw your hand.
So based on the way it's supposed to be done on paper, the city council is supposed to be, you know, have a vote on a project that's been submitted. But the de facto rule is just kind of just defer to whatever the respective council member decides. So that deference, unfortunately, doesn't allow a process. If the people disagree with the council member, it doesn't allow, like, there's no check and balance. Basically, it's the iron fist. It's whatever that council member decides is what goes. So I mean, that's in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna ask everyone else this question. How would you use your deference power when it comes to high-rise development in your community? Kenya? Oh, I'm sorry, I picked you the last night first. I'll pick Rita. I'm sorry. Rita?
For example, in the 1620, our council member, and we all could agree to that, was nowhere to be found. No calls. You show up at his office, he's not there. So I'm not in favor of it, but in our extreme case, we couldn't be in favor because we couldn't find it. I don't know what the next member is doing in their district. So for example, 35, I don't know what was happening in 35, so I couldn't be in favor of it. But my district, our council member just didn't show up. Whether you called him, you showed up at his office, you made an appointment, you emailed, I was absent. So I would only use that in extreme circumstances.
Okay, so let me just clarify what I'm talking about. Deference is the power in which city council members have to say yes or no to a development project that's being proposed. When it gets in front of the city council, if the council person says yes, then the project is approved. If the council person says no, then the project is not approved. It's as simple as that. So the question is, how would you use your deference power when it comes to high-rise development in your community? So I'm going to give you one more opportunity, Rita, to answer that question. How would you use your deference power?
I would listen to the community. Plain and simple, listen to the community. And our council member did not do that. Okay. And on many occasions, we testified in front of him, we showed up, we protested, we rallied, nothing. Listen to the community. Plain and simple.
Thank you. Blake?
So this is an excellent question, and you set up a dynamic that happens in the city council. So the dynamic is that the city council members, the 51 of them, have decided they don't want to have this discussion. They don't want to have this debate about these projects. And then they hide behind the deference of a city council member saying, well, that we're going to defer to that city council member because that member knows the most about his district, which is probably true. But at the same time, they're actually abrogating their responsibilities. So I would like to see if a robust discussion occurring, and then actually after a robust discussion, then there might be the possibility where a council member could use his deference, and people, and then the council could defer to that member. But I don't think it should be used to actually avoid discussing the really hard topics and the really hard issues.
Thank you. Kenya?
Okay, So picture it, Sicily, 1912. They were building the Brooklyn Public Library down there. Stephen Levin was the council member. He could not support this because of his community. I have literally witnessed other members consult with the mayor's office to vote in favor of it because the mayor wanted this project. So member deference is not necessarily a concrete thing. And I think for me, if when I'm the councilwoman, I'm literally going to listen to the community, but I'm galvanizing the community to also recruit the other members on the land use committee. Because if you don't solidify those votes, you are going to get outvoted on that committee because there is going to be an interest there. And so you have to make sure that you are fighting, you're galvanizing your community, and that everyone is going to galvanize the other land use members to vote no on it.
Joseph, Pierre?
So, I mean, if the project is within your community, you are empowered by deference. It's a double-edged sword. If it's a project that your community likes and you go with it, that actually benefits you. If it's a project that your community does not like the Cortelli Road project, and you say no to it, then it does benefit you. But the double-edged sword portion is what happens when you and your community agree that, hey, this zoning project, maybe this tower or whatever it is, might not be good for us here in Flatbush. And you say no. And you have now a cadre of electeds who are against this deference in this particular instance because they've had, I don't know, someone go around and give them whatever, offers them things, and they get together with a Giuliani down the road or a Bloomberg down the road, and then they vote down your project. That's where it becomes tricky. And that's why we have to have these conversations. And that's why we have to include community, because at the end of the day, we have to know what we're up against with each and every project, because each and every project is unique.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just lost my screen. So I apologize. Okay, so Rita, did I call on you, Rita, already for this question? I'm sorry, Edwin Ramon. Sorry about that, Edwin.
You started with me.
I started with you. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
finished. Great.
But I didn't really like get an opinion, and I just kind of answered.
Right, you just answered the question. That's because you got a point for that.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
you want to go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So one thing, and I think Blake kind of mentioned this. It's a de facto thing. It's not technically. It is the responsibility of the entire council. And as Josh said, it's one of those things where it's the responsibility. They'll defer until it's something that they disagree with. And as I'm naming everyone, but as Kenya said, that unfortunately it can be you can be undermined. So I think it's essential to have something a little bit more solid, or as Kenya said, just make sure everyone else on land use committee is also on board.
Okay. Thank you. So now, I just want to say we were supposed to have music, but we just couldn't get it to work. We were supposed to have the Jeopardy music. It was a nice idea, but we couldn't get it. So now we are going to probably a little bit more harder questions. What we did is we have the section called Follow the Money. And what we did, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everyone. Okay. Okay, can you guys, okay, so great. Can you see that screen? Okay. And this is, so for folks who are watching this, you can screenshot this particular slide for yourself so that you can
Alicia, we don't have all the candidates. Scooch up a little.
I know, but that don't worry, we're gonna get to that. We'll get to that graph on the next page. So right now, if you want to, you can take a screenshot because it just shows you how to get to the page that we're going to be showing on the next slide. So it just shows you this is the New York City Campaign Finance Board. And basically what they do is they do what you call follow the money. And so they tell you who the candidates are getting money from, how much money is being done, how much matching funds they're entitled to, et cetera, et cetera. So so please go ahead and click on that. Now we're going to move to the next graph. And now that should show the candidates. And this is what we got from, now this is as of last month, February the 15th. They do these recordings every month until June, and then they start to do it almost every day. It really tells you where the money. And as you can see, if you want to look, as you see this graph, you can see that Edwin Ramon is very ahead of the game. He's gotten a lot of donations. And so because he's the first in line, we're going to ask him the first question. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Okay, so these questions are only for the candidates based upon the information that we receive from Follow the Money. There are a lot of newspaper articles about the lawsuit that you have filed against the New York City Police Department, alleging NYPD has been pushing arrest quotas which target people of color. However, we followed the money and discovered that a large percentage of your donations are coming from police from all over the country, including NYPD captains, sergeants, lieutenants, and rank and file. Additionally, about 60% of your donations, in fact, have come from outside of New York City, with 33% of the people who are claiming they don't work. Please explain this discrepancy.
Okay, starting with those with careers in law enforcement. So one of the things that a lot of people, it's very difficult for people to accept, is this idea that there are officers that get it, that understand that there are issues. And I'll tell you, since becoming a whistleblower, I've become almost a de facto therapist to so many cops. There are cops that call me from jurisdictions throughout the nation, even as far as London, and sometimes in tears because of what their respective departments are doing. There are justice-minded officers, sleeper cells, if you will, all throughout the nation who are ready to push forward reform if they can get a soft landing, if they know it won't jeopardize their careers, their livelihoods. They are willing more and more. So my story, it empowers and it inspires law enforcement. I'll tell you, after George Floyd, so many cops have become whistleblowers themselves. And when I see this, I'm like, great. And then eventually down the line, I'll get a DM, a direct message from Instagram or Facebook, and they'll say, I saw a documentary you were in, and it literally told me, if you could do this, then I can do this. So those are the people who donate.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go to Kenya, because you are the second highest in this category, Kenya. 25% of your donations are from out of state. How do you explain that a quarter of your donations, many from DC, are coming from outside your community?
Well, when I was working for this district in Congress, I built a very large and supportive network. And I think it is what makes me very unique in this race is that I have a network on all levels of government in places and positions of power. I also have a very large family. So my family from all over came in and they supported me. And so I think it is a testament to, wherever I go, I create large scale networks that can invest in me, invest in the community, and invest in our future.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to Joseph Pierre. You have the highest amount of money from lobbyists and attorneys for real estate among all the candidates, yet you profess to not take money from special interest groups. You have received $926 from Abe and Fensterman, the law firm that the community has been fighting in court regarding the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. $1,250 from Kowinski, a lawyer for the real estate industry. What exactly is your position regarding taking from real estate special interest money?
So I have not taken any money from real estate developers, and I've made that commitment not to take money from real estate developers. There are a number of people that work within the industry, from brokers to paralegals to assistants, etc. these are people that I know because I also have worked within that industry. So I have had donors that come from that sector. There's a difference between taking a check from a developer who's saying, I'm going to build X, Y, and Z, and taking a check from somebody who works within the industry, who works for a particular real estate sales firm and gives you a check. There are a number of real brokers, analysts, and other people who are within that sector that live within our district. And by the way, I've never had a conversation about that particular project, nor do I intend to with them.
Rita Joseph. According to the New York City Campaign Finance Board, you received $700 donation from Ms. Kowinski, who is a lawyer for developers. How do you reconcile the discrepancy between your pro-community, anti-big development position with this donation?
At the time when I took the donation, he was a friend who attended an event. And at the time, I wasn't aware of who he was. We can kindly return that donation.
And I just wanted to say that Powinski also gave you Joseph Pierre, who also is a real estate lawyer for the real estate industry. So I just wanted to let you know that. So Rita, you were saying that you're giving that money back?
I can return, yes, absolutely.
Okay, I just want the audience to know that anytime a candidate returns money, you can also verify that on the same website. There is a link there that will show you any monies that are returned, because it does happen sometime that money is given in unawares and the candidate will turn it back. Jose Pierre, are you also saying the same thing?
Yeah, exactly. So let me be clear. I've never had a sit-down conversation with anyone where they said, if you do this, I'll give you that. Like I said, I know people within the industry, but for the sake of not sullying my name or having it be perceived that somehow I'm working to get something done for whatever the amount, $900, I will return that amount and it will appear in our next filing.
Blake Morris.
Yes.
As a lawyer whose main focus is debt collecting, how do you plan and you appeal to, how do you appeal to a community who's burdened with a lot of debt for a variety of reasons, including COVID-19?
That's a great question. So yes, I am a debt collector. I'm a commercial litigator. Most of my litigation work is actually business to business disputes. So wholesalers versus retailers, or wholesalers to wholesalers, or manufacturers to wholesalers. And at the same time, I also do a lot of work, do defense work to defend consumers who, for one reason or another, find themselves at the wrong end of a lawsuit. I've just dismissed a foreclosure action. It was a 5-year fight and got that handled. I'm defending our grocery stores right here in the district that are being abused by out-of-state insurance companies. So I'm defending them. So as a legal advocate, I understand what the rights and the privileges that people have, and I know how to defend them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we got past some of those difficult questions, huh? Now it's time for you to shine. So we call this Shine a Light. This is the spotlight. These are the questions that you submitted to us, and we chose one of these questions. And so I'm going to ask you the question, and then you get a chance to explain. Okay. Kenya Handy Hillard, outline one long shot project that you would like to see accomplished in your district. You have 1 minute.
In my district, I think one of the things that has really, burned my biscuit is this MIHZQA, the Mandatory Inclusionary Housing Zoning for Quality Assurance. I've been fighting against it since its inception, and I want to go. But we know that there are big, deep pocket interests who will fight against it, and then there will be those in government who do not want to get rid of it, because then that means that the city has to put more into investing in affordable housing and zoning. And so that to me is one of my projects that I want to get rid of, and then bring that back to the community so we create more community planning and not city planning.
I just wanted to let everyone know, especially for the new people who have joined us, please try to stay to the end of this, because we will be doing ranked choice voting as a poll. So first, to get you used to that concept, and also for you to judge and see who you felt was the winner of this particular forum. So please stay with us as we wrap up. Okay, so Rita Joseph, what have you done to improve education in our district? Please provide specific examples.
Every year I apply for Resume. I was able to fit my school with a brand new lab through Resume, capital funding. I started a coding program. I also have an after school theater arts program through Moving Mountains. I also created an after school evening program for adults to learn English integrated with ESL, integrated with technology, because I noticed that the parents were also, and it was open to the community, not just my students, but it was open to the whole community. Making sure my kids had access to technology. You walk into my building, every classroom has a Promethean board, every classroom has a 3D printer, every floor has a computer card.
Thank you. Blake Morris. Again, these are questions that the candidates have submitted to us. We chose 1 out of 3, and these are their choices. How would you prioritize community-based recreation and social activity gathering space, and in particular for youth and seniors? How would you find the resources to accomplish this?
So my wife and I, you might have seen my wife before. She was trying to help me find that hand function. So we are for the last 20 years, we are the co-chairs of the Ditmas Park Association and Ditmas Park West Block Party, which is actually a party that covers about 18 blocks. It's about 300 to 400 people, and the block party actually happens on our block, and our house is open for 12 hours. And we have our closest 300 people from 18 blocks of the community come. And we've been doing that for over 20 years. So the pandemic last summer was the first time that we did not hold the block party. It was so we call it the block party, but it's actually the student neighborhood party. But moving forward, if I'm so fortunate to become elected as council member, what I'd like to do is to demolish the detective bureau in the parade ground and rebuild the field house and make that an amazing community center with an all-weather pool. That is what we need. We have no swimming pools in the district. We have 175,000 people and no place to swim and no Olympic pool. And also the parade grounds and that part of Prospect Park lacks any amenities that are suitable for the volume of people that go there to play sports and to recreate.
Thank you. Joseph Pierre?
Yep.
Why would we believe you when you said you will defund, reallocate funds from NYPD? What are some of your personal experiences with NYPD?
All right. So I have a very balanced experience with NYPD. On the one hand, my brothers and I have been harassed by the police, and we know it's because we're young Black men. So we have had that experience. On the other hand, when that bullet came through the window of my mom's house and it hit her just above the eye, the first people on the ground were NYPD. I believe that the responsibility of the police officer is to protect and serve, right? So the officer's job is not really to be a mental health professional. That's how you got that individual that was murdered 2 years ago in Crown Heights. You have to reallocate, yes, take a portion of that funding and put it in the hands of the right professionals. And I believe in our school system, what we need is a robust pipeline of mental health workers that will actually help kids to identify the behavioral issues that keep them from performing at the level that they can. So that's part of how I would reallocate funding.
Thank you. And Edwin Rimmel, what can you do to alleviate the digital divide?
Okay, so I've interviewed many friends who are educators, and unfortunately, we have a lot of students who are falling back, and many times they can't even log on, they can't even stay connected. So I believe at this point in the 21st century that the city can provide the Wi-Fi that's needed and the equipment that's needed. Some schools that are able to fundraise have MacBooks. Other schools get flimsy tablets that can barely stay online. So I believe the funding needs to go in that direction to ensure, again, we have the bandwidth literally to keep them online, and they have the proper equipment, so we don't lose them.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to another portion. We're near the end. This might be a little challenging because I know with the ranked choice voting, everybody now wants to be nice to each other, right? Oh, I can't. Okay, well, let's see if we see a little clause come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to ask one person, one of the other candidates, a question. So yeah, you formulate a question in your mind and you ask that person. So you decide who you want to ask and what you want to ask them. So we're going to start with you, Kenya. Who would you like to ask a question, and what question would it be?
I think I'm going to ask Jasu. Could you shed some light on your perspective on what's going on in our Kings County politics, and how you see yourself, in this mess, so to speak?
So the county leader and I don't always agree on everything. But as a Black woman who got into this role, she did inherit a mess. And what I've tried to do is advise her on how to basically move forward in a way that gets us to a stronger and healthier Democratic Party. But where we do agree and where we've continued to agree is, what are the issues that really impact my local community? How do I put that first? When I knock on doors and talk to people, they talk about the housing that they're being evicted from and their rising rents. They talk about the schools that are underfunded. They talk about the garbage that has piled up and hasn't been picked up. And they talk about all the other issues that has caused Central Brooklyn communities to fall behind. And when we have these political discussions, they're at the forefront, but when it's time to actually get stuff done, all of that falls by the wayside because they're not the powerful people that control the discussion. So I work towards ensuring that their voices continue to be heard on those issues.
Thank you. So we're going to, Rita, would you like to choose someone and you ask them a question? You have to unmute, Rita.
All right. My question will be for Kenya. Thank you for joining the race, and the fact that you're a woman in this race means a lot. What made you decide to jump into the race the last minute? What inspired you to come in the last minute, even though we were so far along?
Well, I think my perspective is I started in Department of Investigation, which gives you a behind the scenes view of how the city operates. And in the midst of COVID, what was happening was I'm seeing our city get caught flat-footed on an emergency that, you're talking about work from home policy. We didn't have one already instituted. You're talking about remote learning. How is it that we did not have an emergency system on our education if something were to happen? Our broadband, we didn't invest in broadband, but now everybody is using it. So it really frustrated me, especially when you go from the COVID response over to a social justice uprising, and the fact that we have 4 agencies that have oversight over the NYPD. It gave me, I went mad because it was just like, how the hell did somebody let this happen? And so as these things were going on and the information that I was getting, I started to say, if I have the skill set, I have the experience, I need to get in this race and bring my community to a point where we say enough is enough.
Okay, thank you. Blake?
I have a question for Rita.
Go ahead.
So my question is, we both have lived in the 40th district quite some time, and we both raised families, and we have a lot of experiences here. We both know the history of our current city council member, Matthew Eugene, who actually did not live in the district when he ran for election. And then we had debacle with a lot of people who may not know the history of this, where I forgot, and even I have forgotten all the details, but we had to have another election because there was these complications and difficulties of Matthew Eugene. And after all that got settled out, we're still not quite sure if Matthew Eugene actually lives in the district, and he's basically a no-show and he's missing in action. So it's been a very bad 15 years, and it started off very badly as well. So my question to you is, how do you feel about the possibility that there might be candidates now in this district who may not actually live in the district?
Well, if that's the case, I believe the rule is they have 30 days to move into the district prior to the primary or the election. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's 30 days prior to the election, they can move into the district. So I live here. I don't know if about anybody else. I can't speak on their behalf. If you don't live in the district, you got to move in right away.
Well, this is exciting. Blake, are you making an accusation that one of these candidates that are here at the forum do not live here?
Oh, it's more than one.
Oh, would you like to share that information with us?
Well, I would like them to volunteer.
Oh, okay. So he's going to give you guys an opportunity to come forward and say the truth. Anybody? Well, we now got truth or dare. This is change from Jeopardy to truth or dare. Okay, guys.
I know, right?
I'm burning to know. Who is it? Come on. Who does not live in the district? Now, you know we'll find out eventually. And that's not going to be good for your candidacy.
I just want you to say I live on Rutland Road between Bedford and Rogers. You see Holla Dog in front of my house every season. So it ain't me.
It ain't you. Anybody else? Anybody? Nope.
No, I live in the district and I work in the district.
Okay.
I live and work in the district.
Well,
And it's certainly not me. I live on East 16th Street between Dorchester and Ditmas.
So
and I also work in the
we
district.
got two other people here. We got Jose or Edwin.
It's not me.
Well, it's not me either. I first lived in the district when I lived across from Holy Cross on Church Avenue. My parents, so that was probably the first 20 years of my life. Then my parents purchased a home right outside of the district on Snyder and East 31st Street. Then I moved in and out of the district a few times. And for the purpose of stability, I always kept my registered address at my parents, because you'd get an apartment, you'd have a situation, you may lose your apartment. But I live on East 28th Street between Albemarle and Tilden.
Is that your parents' house?
No, that's not my parents' house. I rent.
Edwin Ramon, would you like to tell us if you live in the district?
I live in the district. I've lived throughout different parts of East Flatbush my whole life. I live in the district.
Well, Blake, would you like to tell us who it is?
I think that's what he should do.
Blake,
Yes.
would you like to tell us who it is?
No, I think I'm a firm believer in people volunteering information, and I think it will come out.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to Edwin Ramon. Would you like to ask somebody a question?
Sure. Blake, you've made several comments about the NYPD, revamping the NYPD, the patrol guide. People are well-meaning, but when this criminal justice thing, we don't have time for guesswork. You know, how are you going to effectively change the patrol guide and make criminal justice minded decisions if you've had absolutely no experience in law enforcement?
Well, actually, I do have experience in law enforcement. I was assistant district attorney in Kings County.
I'm not,
I
not
started
as a
my
prosecutor. I'm
career.
talking about public in the streets.
Edward, you have to give him an
Okay,
opportunity.
I apologize.
So yes, so I was assistant district attorney at the beginning of my career, and I worked for city government and the Department of Ports and Terminals that doesn't exist anymore. But I was in a regulatory body that we actually enforced the law on the waterfront. So even though I did not wear a badge, I was actually enforcing the criminal law and also the city's administrative code. So I am fully aware of criminal law matters. I'm a practicing attorney for over 35 years. So this is an experience level that I do have. And the public, they have a right to say how they want to be policed. People are tired of having unknown people, faceless bureaucrats, coming up with a policy and a process that doesn't work for them. I'm running for this office. Hopefully I'm going to win this office, and we're going to do things that people like to have done to them. And they have a right to do that. So I'm going to make sure that we write policies and budgets that work for this district.
Thank you. Joseph?
So who hasn't asked the question, been asked a question actually?
Oh, what? Did everyone is supposed to ask a question? Did you ask somebody a question, Joseph?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that is up to you now.
Oh, well, so who hasn't been asked a question?
But that's had nothing to do with me. You can ask whoever you want to.
Let's see.
You didn't have to choose someone who didn't.
So Blake, in a district where people are disproportionately burdened by debt, and in a district that's predominantly people of color, anybody can represent you as long as you have a level of empathy. During your campaign, how many doors and how many people have you connected with outside of that Ditmas Park area and inside that poverty-stricken, lower income, further far east section where we're being kicked out of our homes, we're not getting the best education, and we are constantly struggling to make progress?
So I don't actually think of the district as east of the district. We're a district of micro neighborhoods, and I travel the entire district for over 2 decades for different reasons. I've been successful in defending people who are at the wrong end of lawsuits, either if it could be a small business, grocery stores and candy stores, they can be wholesalers, they can be individuals who are being oppressed by banks, and I've been able to dismiss foreclosure actions. I've been able to fight for people's rights against insurance companies. So having a knowledge of actually representing creditors, I can use that knowledge to actually flip it against other creditors and defend the people within the community. I've been working for people on housing initiatives, planning initiatives, all kinds of recreational issues, all kinds of recreational initiatives, painted many bridges. So basically I've been everywhere that one needs to go, from Albany Avenue all the way over to East 7th Street, and from Parkside Avenue all the way down to Avenue H.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's one last question, and this is a question that has been on a lot of people's minds, because as you know, the riots really focused on abuse, police abuse. There's been a movement both here in the city as well as national about defunding the police. And is one of the hottest topics of debate in New York City. So I'm asking each candidate to tell us what it is and how will they proceed with, do they support defunding the police? And if so, what type of defunding are we talking about, and how would you position it and fight for it? I'll start with Edwin. Edwin Ramon, you got your hand up.
Yeah. So, it's no secret. I'm a police lieutenant, but I'm not just a member of law enforcement. I'm someone from day one who's been very critical of law enforcement and have analyzed this thing for going on 13 years now. I do support divesting and reallocating funds, both to empower existing agencies to provide them the resources they need to get a lot of the burden or many hats that police officers wear away from them. If it's not an absolute law enforcement like necessity, cops don't need to be there. So in that sense, we can shift those funds to empower existing agencies and also create new agencies, because there are certain things in 12 and a half years that I've responded to. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm not even trained for this. But the one thing that, you're not going to know if you're not on the inside is how the budgeting already works and how to shape existing funds, where exactly to take funds from in the NYPD that doesn't jeopardize public safety, but gets funds into other areas and other resources. I'll give an example. There's a crime analysis unit. These are statisticians. It's a lieutenant, it's a sergeant, some cops, and a few civilians. Those cops, because of the skill set that they carry, they're paid just to walk through the door at least $105,000 a year. The administrative civilian staff, many are paid half that.
I think your time is up. Lorraine,
Okay.
Can you pick up that stop sign?
Yes,
You
yes.
did. Oh,
Oh.
okay. I'm sorry. I
right.
looked down for a minute and I looked up and didn't see that.
All
I'm
right.
sorry. Thank you, Ramon.
That's cool. All right.
I appreciate that. Okay, Joseph.
As I told people before, I come at this from a balanced approach. I've seen what the police did. I can still remember Patrick Dorismond's funeral under Mayor Giuliani, where as a community, we were grieving because a member of our community was murdered by the police. And while we were grieving, the Giuliani sent the police at us as if we were less than human and we didn't have the right to grieve. And on top of the fact that we were grieving, we're being treated like animals. But I also know that in our communities, we have gun violence problem. In our communities, we need to feel safe. In parts of our communities, we have a gang violence problem. I don't believe that these are two things that you either have police protection or you either have brutality. I think we can have both, just like other communities. So yes, we can defund and reallocate. And one of the key areas we need to reallocate is into the summer youth programs and other resources that allow these kids to develop and grow to be just as successful as those kids in the suburbs. That's the real difference. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kenya?
Well, today, I'll tell you a quick story. Today, I was at Daleview Biscuits and Beer on Nostrand Avenue, and there was a man who seemed to be he was either drunk or he was high, and he was just like rolling around on the floor. And Chris, the owner, and I were trying to figure out who we call. We didn't want to call the police, but we didn't know who else to call. So I'm on, Google trying to find out, so the non-emergency number is 311, which is another story. But the fact is that we really have to reimagine what our public safety system looks like and bring in the community and create that infrastructure. I'm a big proponent, a supporter of the crisis management system and putting, we pay more on the enforcement end and not on the investment end. So taking that $1.1 billion from the police budget that the controller said that can happen, and putting it in education system and crisis management systems, which are the violence interrupter programs, taking police out of schools, et cetera.
Thank you. Rita?
NYPD, yes, defund. My boys haven't had a great experience with them. My boys were put in handcuffs to drive in my car because he was Black and he was pulled over, and I'm still troubled by that. And no one still, till today, has been able to answer that for me. And I'm about relocating funds into public housing, into education, into hospitals, into nurses, guidance counselors, schools, because I can't understand for the life of me how you have 5,000 school safety officers in a school, and I have 560 school psychologists. Tell me if something is not wrong with those numbers. As an educator of 21 years on the ground, these are the things I see. When I visit the school next to mine, I feel as if I'm walking through the airport. I have to take off my shoes, I have to put my bag on a conveyor belt. And when I visit other schools in other districts, I don't go through all of that. So so the police being in schools for me has to go. $3 billion away from the budget over amount. It's $1 billion over 4 years, but being a little more aggressive, I would love to see $3 billion.
Thank you, Rita. And last, Blake.
So the New York City police budget is $11 billion. So one of the things you have to take a look at is when candidates for public office are talking to you, they should actually start talking about the parameters of the situation. So the NYPD budget is $11 billion with a B. I think we can do either better than what most people are saying that we can remove from the police budget. I agree with Rita that we can do a lot of transfers to a lot of different things. We can have police out of our schools. We can have police out of our meter reading work. We can have police out of all kinds of administrative processes, like giving out press badges. So there is a huge amount of work that can be done, and we can digitize a lot of police work. A lot of police work is paperwork. We are paying billions for people with badges to do paperwork. They're not doing law enforcement. They're doing work that either computer can do or other parts of city government can do cheaper and probably better. So we want to maximize public safety, right? We want to get cops on the street. We want to have happy cops. We want to have a happy public, having a positive relationship with law enforcement. And we want to take those billions and put them into the uses and services that are much better to make a more viable living city.
Thank you. Okay, well.
Can I please add something, please? It's very important that we understand something here. When we say we want to defund the police, we need to be very clear and specific as to how we do it. We cannot just say $1 billion because there are a lot of Black and brown people who work within the administration. And we know that the ire is towards racist police officers who are not necessarily Black and brown. If we just say to them, take off $1 billion, they may very well target those Black and brown administrators and still leave the people who are putting the foot on our necks. So I hope that we're very clear and specific, any of us who gets into office, on who it is that this axe falls on. I'm for it, but I'm not just going to give them a blank check and say, figure it out.
Okay, well, thank you, guys. I just want to say thank you so much for attending this forum. We are now at the end. I am going to share my screen because we're doing two things from here. First, we're going to do that voting. So you get a chance to sit there and do ranked choice voting, but instead of 5 choices, you have your top 3 choices. And then we also have the screen. If you like any of the candidates, if you felt like these candidates are somebody that you want to follow, that you want to donate to, that you think is a good candidate based upon the information that you found out, some of it's still unknown, then please think about following that candidate and giving them money. And this is a very crucial point in time for the candidates. They have to sit there and get all these signatures. So if you are over 18 and you belong to the Democratic Club, you can volunteer to get those signatures so they can get onto the ballot. So this is a very important time. And please don't forget to keep looking for information on Follow the Money, because as we get closer and closer to the election, money starts to pour into candidates in expenditures, and you then get to see exactly who's supporting the candidates, if there are special interests supporting the candidates. So please make sure that you stay informed and not just allow this to be the only form or the only piece of information that you take away with. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and just hold on. Let me share the screen. Oh, wait, got it, okay. Oh, no, I got it, sorry. Let me do that again. I gotta stop sharing. Okay, I gotta do that again, I'm sorry about that. Okay, and there you go. Okay, so this is for everyone in the community. Please think about taking a screenshot. These are the candidates. This is their websites, their telephone numbers. And you know, a lot of people had some great questions, and I know that we didn't get to all of the questions, but you know, now you have the candidates' email addresses. Ask them. I mean, we would expect that while they're on the campaign trail, they would answer your questions. And if they don't, well, then you have to consider that. If they're not answering it now, they probably won't answer it later. So if you had some great questions, we could not get to all of them, but please think about reaching out to these candidates and asking them more of those types of questions so that you can find out what they feel. You don't have to wait for a forum. So please go ahead and take a screenshot of this. We want to thank our Zoom host, our timekeeper, and Respect Brooklyn and Flack for helping with this forum. And we want to do a special thanks to Julia, Brian, and Martina Victoria, because this was a lot of work and we did a lot of work of researching. So now we're going to ask Nicola Cox, who is our host for today, who's hosting this Zoom, to go ahead and put up the voting. And so the way that this works, I just want to warn you, you cannot vote twice for the same candidate. If you vote twice for the same candidate, then your vote does not count. And that's exactly the way it's done at the community, at the real live ranked choice voting. So there are 3 choices. Go ahead and pick your choices. And we're going to give everybody about a minute to go ahead and make their choices. And then we're going to be able to tell you the winner. Now, also, let's be clear. We know that some candidates have a little bit more of their allies here than others. So let's keep that in mind as well. But what this does is just gives you a good practice on understanding that you do have to choose between several candidates. It cannot just be one person. And so this is a nice practice of getting that. So we're still, we're still getting, Nicola, you just got to tell me when we're finished. Please make sure that everyone.
Something happened, it was ended prematurely. I don't know, someone else ended it, but I opened it back up again so people could place their votes in again.
And please do not press end poll. You let us do that, please. We're the ones who will end the poll when we see that everyone has voted. If you want to tell us why you chose the person that you chose, Nicola is going to open up the chat. So please think about telling us the reason, because that could be also helpful. Right? Why did you choose the person that you chose for the first and second and third?
Well, the chat would go directly to the host, so we'll get the information.
So please go ahead and get into that chat. If you have that ability, click on the chat and tell us why. We still don't have everyone. We got about 60, 2/3. We're still waiting for folks to put in their choices. This is a good exercise. It's a good exercise. 71% of the vote is in. 73 people are still voting. And we are almost finished. It's 7 minutes and 58 seconds. I think we did a great job, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for showing up and being pleasant and tolerating our questions and giving us a little excitement. We always like a little excitement around here. And for the audience, please stay connected to us. We will be following up on these candidates. We will be letting you know what they're doing. So if you registered to attend this meeting, you are now on our email link. We will send you updates and let you know what we find. We will continue to look at Follow the Money. And of course, please go to other forums, other candidates forums, get involved, know your candidates, because someone's going to be making decisions for your community and for your life.
And I know that there was Cecilia Cortez joined the meeting, but she did not get in contact with us prior to this forum to participate. So she's running for the council. I know she was on the grid, the graph, and I'm sure that there are other candidates as well. So good luck to everyone.
Yes, we were unable to get to everyone, but we know that there are other candidates out there. So please find out about them. Go to the Follow the Money website. That's a very important website. Okay,
we're gonna close the poll. We have about 70 in, and then we haven't voted, so we are probably some of the outliers.
Oh, okay, great. So go ahead and end the poll and let's see. Okay, so here are the results. Well, I'm gonna read them out before I tell it to you because I'm really excited about this. Okay, Rita Joseph is our winner for first place. The second place is Rita Joseph for second place. And third place is Kenya Handy. So let me share the results. There you go. It would be interesting to find out what people thought and why they picked her. But those are the results. Again, this is just fun, right? We're not predicting anybody's going to be a winner. But it's an enjoyable process, and I hope people go out and vote. Make sure you're sharing the information. Make sure if you do like a candidate, make sure that you're following them and supporting them and giving them money and helping them out and volunteering. It's really important. Okay, so I want to thank you guys. Congratulations, Rita. Congratulations, Kenya, for being the winner of this poll. I had some fun. I don't know about you. I enjoyed it. So I just want to thank everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I see people are leaving. Thank you. Thank you, guests. Thank you, candidates. Good luck on your candidacy. I hope to be able to knock on your door or ring your bell and you let me in. My local people, they don't really like me, but I hope one of you wind up liking me. You make an appointment, you'll see me. But definitely good luck on your candidacy. Definitely. Yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yes, thank you for showing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for organizing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I just thank you, definitely.
My fellow candidates, I'll see you guys on the trail.
And Martina, Victoria, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, Nicola, for hosting.
Thank you very much for hosting. It was a very good forum.
Thank you.
Oh, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope we made it
excellent.
fun.
Candidates. Thank you,
Very good.
candidates.
Yes, good. And we'll be checking up on that information, Blake.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Continuing disclosures.
Yes, do not worry, because that's what we do.
I'm gonna get my teacup because that was some tea.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Guys. Good night. And congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
Lorraine, you got to vote.
I know. We didn't vote. So.
No, I'm saying someone put in the chat that they voted for Lorraine.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a great timekeeper. You were so good. So good. And it really
Good
kept
job,
people
Lorraine.
on point. It really kept people on point. It was a good experience. Thank you, guys. Oh, look at the winners staying behind.
Kenya and I were good. We're good.
That's so nice. So we
Yeah,
That's my boo.
Yeah.
That's my boo right there. Yeah.
Okay, so are you guys working together? You're the team to work.
We're gonna finish up with petitioning, and
Okay.
then we'll get
You
to
gotta make it official. Make it official first.
Okay, good. Well, you see, you got some support from the community.
yes.
So they like your answers. I don't know why. Maybe we'll get some. I didn't get a lot of information from the chat, so you just have to kind of guess why. But obviously, there was something they liked about you guys. Was it because you live in the district?
Oh, you tried it.
I'm so bad.
You dropped that bombshell like it was bow.
Yeah. That whole money, I didn't even realize I was taking money from a real estate developer.